Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the TCS Horizon, watching the stars drift past the main view screen. The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks through the Kepler 442 system, mapping planets and checking for minerals. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Jake had been doing this job for 12 years now, and he was good at it. "Commander, we're picking up something strange on the long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Sam Parker from his station. The young man looked worried as he stared at his screens. Jake walked over to look at the readings. 3 large objects were moving toward them from the outer edge of the system. They were too big to be asteroids and too fast to be natural. "How far away are they?" "About 6 hours at current speed, sir. They're definitely ships, but they don't match any design in our database." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. In all his years of space travel, he had never seen anything like this. Humanity had been exploring space for over 200 years, and they had never found any sign of alien life. Until now. "Wake up, Captain Rodriguez," Jake ordered. "Tell her we need her on the bridge right away." Lisa Rodriguez arrived 15 minutes later, still pulling on her uniform jacket. She was the best xenobiologist in the fleet, which meant she knew more about alien life than anyone else. Of course, that wasn't saying much since no one had ever seen any aliens before. "What do we have, Jake?" she asked, looking at the sensor readings. 3 unknown ships heading our way. They're big and they're not trying to hide." Lisa studied the data for a few minutes. "Their design is completely different from ours. Look at these energy signatures. They're using some kind of crystal-based technology. This is incredible." Jake wasn't as excited as she was. 3 unknown ships heading straight for them didn't feel like a friendly visit. "What do you think they want?" "Maybe they're just curious about us, like we are about them." This could be the greatest moment in human history. The hours passed slowly as the alien ships got closer. Jake sent a message back to Earth, telling them about the contact. It would take weeks for the message to reach home, and weeks more for any reply to come back. Whatever happened here, they were on their own. When the alien ships finally arrived, Jake was amazed by what he saw. They were beautiful, like giant crystals floating in space. Each one was twice the size of the horizon and seemed to glow with its own inner light. They moved with a grace that human ships could never match. "They're trying to communicate," reported Lieutenant Parker. "I'm getting signals on multiple frequencies." "Put it through the translator," Lisa said. She had spent years preparing for this moment, creating programs that might help them talk to aliens. The bridge speakers crackled to life and a voice came through. It was deep and commanding, speaking in perfect English. "Primitive vessel, you will identify yourselves and state your purpose in this system." Jake and Lisa looked at each other in surprise. The aliens spoke their language perfectly. Jake stepped forward. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Terran Colonial Alliance ship, Horizon. We're on a peaceful exploration mission. Who are you?" "I am War Prince Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered territory claimed by our empire. Your species is unknown to us." Lisa quickly activated the communication system. "War Prince Kethvar, this is Captain Lisa Rodriguez. We greet you in peace. This is a historic moment for both our species. We had no idea this system was claimed by anyone." There was a long pause before the alien replied. "Your ignorance is not an excuse. The Zephyrian Empire has been expanding through this region of space for over 1,000 years. We have conquered 43 star systems and hundreds of worlds." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. These weren't friendly explorers like humanity. These were conquerors. "We don't want any trouble," Jake said. "We're just mapping systems and looking for resources. We can leave if you want." "You misunderstand the situation," Kethvar replied. "We have already detected 17 of your colonies in nearby systems. Your species has spread across territory that belongs to the Empire. This cannot be allowed to continue." Lisa tried to keep her voice calm. "Perhaps we can reach an agreement. Our colonies are small and peaceful. We're not a threat to your empire. All species say this when they first encounter us. Your colonies will be absorbed into the empire and your people will serve us. This is how it has always been." Jake's hands tightened into fists. And if we refuse, then you will be destroyed, as all who oppose the Empire are destroyed. You have primitive weapons and weak ships. Resistance would be foolish. The communication ended, and the 3 alien ships began to move away. Jake watched them go, knowing that everything had just changed for humanity. Get me a direct line to Mars Station, he ordered. Priority 1. It took several minutes to establish the connection. Admiral Carl Weber's face appeared on the screen, looking tired. He had been dealing with pirate raids in the outer colonies. Jake, what's so important that you're using a priority channel? Admiral, we've made contact with an alien species. They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire, and they're demanding that all human colonies surrender to them. Weber's expression changed instantly. Are you certain about this? Yes, sir. They have advanced technology and claim to have conquered 43 star systems. They gave us no choice in the matter. Weber was quiet for a long moment, thinking. What's your assessment of their military capabilities? Their ships are far more advanced than ours. They move faster, and their energy readings are off the charts. If they wanted to destroy us right now, I don't think we could stop them. Understood. Return to Earth immediately. We need to prepare for whatever comes next. The communication ended, and Jake gave the order to turn the ship around. As the Horizon began its journey home, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's peaceful expansion through space was about to come to a violent end. 3 days later, the news reached Earth through emergency channels. The Proxima Centauri colony had been destroyed. 50,000 people were dead, killed in minutes by weapons that turned their cities into glass. The message from the Zephyrians was simple: surrender or face the same fate. Humanity's first contact with alien life had become humanity's first interstellar war, and they were already losing. Dr. Nathan Cross stood in the underground laboratory, watching the news reports from Proxima Centauri on every screen. The images were horrible. Where the colony city once stood, there was only melted rock and twisted metal. 50,000 people had died in less than 10 minutes. How did they do it? Asked Dr. Helen Murphy, who was standing beside him. She was shaking as she looked at the destruction. Some kind of energy weapon, Nathan replied. It heated everything to over 3,000 degrees. The buildings, the people, everything just melted. Helen turned away from the screens. What kind of monsters would do this to civilians? Nathan had been thinking about that question for 3 days now. He was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Research Division, and it was his job to figure out how to fight these aliens. But their technology was so far ahead of anything humans had. They're not monsters, he said quietly. They're soldiers following orders. That makes them even more dangerous. President Elena Martinez had declared a state of emergency 2 days ago. Every military base on Earth and in the colonies was now working around the clock. Factories that made cars and computers were being changed to make weapons and ships, but Nathan knew it wouldn't be enough. The aliens had given humanity 1 week to surrender all colonies. That was 4 days ago. On the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Amy Parker was preparing for war. She commanded the defense forces on New Geneva, a colony world with 2 million people. Her soldiers were scared, but they were ready to fight. Colonel, we're getting reports of alien ships in the outer system, said Major Tom Richards, her second in command. Amy looked at the tactical display. 15 Zephyrian ships were moving toward the planet. Her defense fleet consisted of 6 patrol boats and 12 fighters. It was like bringing knives to a gunfight. How long until they reach us? She asked. 18 hours at current speed. Amy nodded. She had been preparing for this moment since the news from Proxima reached them. Send the evacuation order to all civilian areas. Get as many people off the planet as possible. What about us? Amy checked her rifle and made sure it was loaded. We're going to show these aliens that humans don't die quietly. Back on Earth, General Robert Kane was coming out of retirement. He was 73 years old and had spent the last 10 years fishing and reading books. But when President Martinez called him, he put on his uniform again. Kane had fought in Earth's last major war 40 years ago. He understood things that the younger officers didn't. War wasn't about honor or glory. It was about killing the enemy before they killed you. "What's our current military strength?" he asked Admiral Karl Weber during their first meeting. "We have 200 ships in the fleet, but most of them are patrol boats and cargo haulers. Only 40 are real warships. Our ground forces number about 2 million soldiers across all colonies." Kane shook his head. "That's not nearly enough. We need to change everything." "What do you mean?" "Every factory, every shipyard, every person. Everything gets turned toward the war effort. We're going to need weapons these aliens have never seen before." Lieutenant Commander Steve Hayes was in the military archives on Luna, looking through old files. He had been ordered to study historical warfare tactics, trying to find something that might work against the Zephyrians. What he found made him sick to his stomach. The files contained detailed records of humanity's worst wars, the strategies used in World War II, Vietnam, and the African conflicts. Tactics that civilized people tried to forget. But as Steve read through the documents, he began to understand something important. Humans were very good at killing each other. They had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. "These tactics are horrible," he said to his assistant, Lieutenant Mary Johnson. "Then why are you copying them?" Steve looked at her with tired eyes. "Because they work." On New Geneva, the first alien ships entered orbit. Colonel Amy Parker watched from her command bunker as they took positions around the planet. The Zephyrians sent a message demanding surrender. Amy's reply was simple. "Come and take it." The battle began at dawn. Zephyrian soldiers landed in crystal ships that looked like flying jewels. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing beams of blue energy. They were magnificent warriors fighting with discipline and honor. Amy's soldiers hid in buildings and underground tunnels. They used bombs hidden in the ground and snipers shooting from windows. When the aliens expected honorable combat, the humans shot them in the back. "This is not how war is fought," one captured Zephyrian officer told Amy. "You fight without honor." Amy looked at the alien with cold eyes. "We fight to win." The battle for New Geneva lasted 3 weeks. The Zephyrians could have destroyed the planet from orbit, but their honor code prevented them from killing civilians. Instead, they fought a ground war they didn't understand. Human soldiers dressed as civilians and attacked alien patrols. They poisoned water supplies and used children to carry bombs. They booby-trapped buildings and set fires to create confusion. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy like this. In their 1,000 years of conquest, every species had fought them, with honor. Warriors faced warriors in open battle. The strong won, the weak surrendered. Humans didn't follow those rules. Dr. Helen Murphy made her first breakthrough while studying Zephyrian biology from captured equipment. The aliens had a weakness that could be exploited. "Their nervous system is completely different from ours," she explained to Dr. Cross. "They communicate through telepathic links. If we could disrupt that, they would lose coordination." Nathan finished. "Can you build something?" "Give me 2 weeks." On New Geneva, Colonel Amy Parker received new orders from Earth. General Kane wanted detailed reports on alien fighting methods and weaknesses. Every piece of information would be used to help other human colonies. Amy smiled grimly as she wrote her report. The Zephyrians were learning that humans were not like other species. They had conquered. Humans were nastier, more desperate, and far more creative when it came to killing. The aliens were about to discover that they had picked a fight with the wrong species. War Prince Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the reports. From New Geneva, his forces were winning, but slowly and at great cost. These humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. "Commander, the humans are using their own civilians as weapons," reported his aide. "That is dishonorable," Kethvar said, struggling to understand. "Yes, my lord. They seem to have no concept of proper warfare." Kethvar turned to look at the tactical display showing human space. 17 colonies spread across dozens of light years. If they all fought like the humans on New Geneva, this war would take much longer than expected. He had no idea that humanity was just getting started. Commander Jake Morrison crept through the dark corridors of the Zephyrian supply station. His team of 12 soldiers moved silently behind him, their faces painted black to hide in the shadows. They had been planning this mission for 2 months. The station hung in space near the asteroid belt, refueling alien ships that were attacking human colonies. Jake's job was simple: get inside and plant bombs that would destroy everything. "Remember," he whispered into his radio, "no survivors. We can't let them report what we're doing." His team nodded. They all understood. This wasn't about honor or fair fighting anymore. This was about survival. Jake had changed a lot since that first contact with the aliens 6 months ago. The exploration officer who believed in peaceful contact was gone. Now he was something else, something harder. The Zephyrians guarding the station never saw them coming. Human soldiers moved like ghosts, killing quietly with knives and poison gas. When the bombs exploded an hour later, the beautiful crystal station became a cloud of glowing dust. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood in the command center on Mars, watching the tactical displays. She wasn't studying alien biology anymore. Now she was learning how aliens thought, how they made decisions, how they could be fooled. "The Zephyrians follow strict rules about warfare," she explained to the other officers. "They only attack military targets. They never harm places they consider sacred. They always give enemies a chance to surrender with honor." "Admiral Carl," Weber listened carefully. "And we can use this against them?" "Yes. They expect us to follow the same rules. When we don't, it confuses them. Makes them make mistakes." Weber smiled coldly. "Good. What other weaknesses have you found?" Lisa pointed to images of alien soldiers on the screens. "They're physically stronger than us, but they depend on their telepathic communication. If we can disrupt that, they become much less effective." On the colony world of New Geneva, Colonel Amy Parker was teaching the Zephyrians a lesson they would never forget. Her defense of the planet had lasted 2 months now, and the aliens were getting frustrated. The crystal-skinned invaders controlled most of the major cities, but they couldn't control the people. Human civilians had become an army of shadows, striking at alien patrols and then disappearing. "Colonel, we captured another Zephyrian officer," reported Major Tom Richards. Amy walked into the interrogation room where the alien sat chained to a chair. The creature was tall and elegant with skin that sparkled like diamonds. It looked at her with disgust. "You have no honor," the alien said in perfect English. "Your soldiers hide among civilians. You poison our food supplies. You use children as weapons. This is not warfare." Amy sat down across from the alien. "You're right. This isn't warfare. This is extermination. You came here to destroy us, so we're going to destroy you first." The alien's eyes widened. "But the rules of combat—" "Your rules," Amy interrupted. "We never agreed to follow them." She stood up and walked toward the door. "Enjoy your stay. We'll be sending pieces of you back to your friends soon." Dr. Nathan Cross worked 18 hours a day in his underground laboratory. The weapons he was creating would have horrified him a year ago. Now they seemed like humanity's only hope. "The sonic disruptors are ready for field testing," he told Dr. Helen Murphy. "They should disrupt Zephyrian telepathic communication completely." Helen looked at the weapon. It was small and simple like a radio, but when activated it would cause terrible pain to any Zephyrian within a mile. "What about the biological weapons?" Nathan's face grew dark. "The virus is almost complete. It won't kill them, but it will make them wish they were dead. Their immune systems have never encountered anything like it." General Robert Kane stood before the assembled fleet commanders at Mars Station. Behind him, tactical displays showed the current war situation. Humanity was losing 12 colonies but fighting hard for each one. "Gentlemen, the time for defensive fighting is over," Kane announced. "We're going to take the war to them." This younger officers looked confused. "Sir, our ships are no match for theirs in direct combat," said Captain Bill Norton. Kane smiled. "Who said anything about direct combat? We're going to hit them where they don't expect it. Supply lines, communication stations, undefended worlds. We're going to make them afraid to leave their home systems." Admiral Weber activated a star map showing Zephyrian territory. Intelligence has identified 17 supply bases and 43 communication relay stations. We're going to destroy them all. Lieutenant Commander Steve Hayes had become an expert on human military history. The things he learned kept him awake at night, but they also gave him ideas that were winning battles. Psychological warfare, he explained to a group of special operations officers. We make them afraid. We make them doubt themselves. We break their will to fight before we break their bodies. He showed them videos from Earth's old wars, propaganda broadcasts, terror tactics, and methods of breaking enemy morale. The Zephyrians think of war as a noble contest between warriors, Steve continued. We're going to show them that war is hell. The Battle of Titan's Rings was humanity's first major space victory. Admiral Weber had positioned his fleet among the rocky debris that orbited Saturn's largest moon. When the Zephyrian attack fleet arrived, they found themselves in a maze of floating boulders and ice chunks. The aliens tried to fight an honorable battle, ship against ship, but human vessels hid behind asteroids, using the debris as both shield and weapon. They attached rocket engines to large rocks and sent them flying at alien ships at incredible speeds. This is not how space combat is conducted, transmitted the Zephyrian fleet commander. Weber's reply was simple. It is now. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 23 Zephyrian ships were destroyed or crippled. The human fleet lost only 4 vessels. More importantly, the aliens learned that humans didn't fight fair. Captain Rodriguez made another important discovery while studying captured Zephyrian equipment. The aliens recorded everything, keeping detailed logs of their battles and strategies. They're learning from us, she warned the military commanders. Each battle they adapt a little more to our tactics. General Kane nodded. Then we need to stay ahead of them. Every time they learn to counter one tactic, we develop 3 new ones. Dr. Murphy's first biological weapon was tested on a captured Zephyrian patrol. The results were exactly what she had hoped for. The virus didn't kill the aliens, but it destroyed their ability to communicate telepathically. Cut off from their psychic network, the proud warriors became confused and frightened. They made mistake after mistake, walking into traps that any child could have avoided. It's working, she reported to Dr. Cross. Without their telepathic link, they're just individuals. They can't coordinate their attacks. Nathan looked at the test results. How long before we can deploy it on a larger scale? 2 weeks, maybe less. War Prince Kethavar stood in his command chamber, reading reports from across the front lines. The news was not good. Human resistance was growing stronger, not weaker. These mammals were not behaving like any species he had conquered before. My lord, we have lost contact with Supply Base Gamma 7, reported his aide. Another human raid? Yes, my lord. The entire station was destroyed. No survivors. Kethvar studied the tactical display. Red marks showed where human attacks had struck Zephyrian positions. There were too many to count. These humans do not fight like warriors, he said quietly. No, my lord, they fight like animals. Kethvar nodded slowly. Perhaps it was time to show these animals what the Zephyrian Empire did to species that refused to surrender properly. He would demonstrate the full power of his fleet. He had no idea that humanity was preparing to demonstrate something far worse. General Robert Kane stood before the largest military gathering in human history. Officers from every colony, every fleet, and every branch of service filled the massive conference hall on Mars. Behind him, screens showed production numbers that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. Gentlemen and ladies, Operation Earthbound begins today, Kane announced. Every human being in the galaxy is now part of this war machine. The numbers were staggering. 60 billion people had been mobilized for war. Factories on Earth were producing weapons 24 hours a day. Mining colonies stripped entire asteroids to build ships. Even children were helping, assembling electronic components and building communication equipment. Colonel Amy Parker, now promoted to general after her successful defense of New Geneva, looked around the room at faces she had never seen before. Young captains who had learned warfare in the past year. old admirals brought out of retirement like Kane himself. "What's our target?" she asked. Kane activated a star map showing Zephyrian space. "Everything. Every world, every station, every ship. We're not just fighting to defend our colonies anymore. We're going to end this war by ending them." Admiral Carl Weber studied the tactical displays. The human fleet had grown from 200 ships to over 3,000 in just 12 months. Most were converted cargo haulers and mining vessels, but they carried the deadliest weapons humanity had ever created. "Sir, intelligence reports that the Zephyrians are massing their forces for a major offensive," Weber reported. "They're planning to attack Earth directly." Kane smiled coldly. "Let them come. By the time they reach our home system, there won't be a Zephyrian empire left to give them orders." Lieutenant Commander Steve Hayes had become something he never wanted to be, an expert in breaking enemy minds. His psychological warfare division had grown from 5 people to 5,000. Their broadcasts were driving Zephyrian soldiers insane across dozens of worlds. "The latest transmission is ready," reported Captain Susan Wright, his second in command. Steve nodded. The broadcast would be sent to every Zephyrian communication network they could reach. Instead of military threats, it contained something far worse: the sounds of their own soldiers screaming as they died. "Send it to all frequencies," he ordered. "Make sure every alien in their empire hears it." Dr. Helen Murphy watched her creation spread across Zephyrian space like wildfire. The silence plague had been deployed on 17 worlds now, and the results were exactly what she had hoped for. Proud warriors reduced to confused individuals, unable to coordinate their actions. "The virus is mutating faster than expected," she told Dr. Nathan Cross. "It's adapting to their attempts to cure it." Nathan looked at the biological warfare reports. "How many are infected?" "Conservative estimate? About 2 million Zephyrians across their empire. They're calling it the human curse." The first major offensive began with the Battle of Kepler Station. Admiral Weber commanded a fleet of 800 ships against a Zephyrian force of 200. The aliens expected a glorious space battle between honorable warriors. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by a swarm of small human vessels, each carrying just enough firepower to cripple a crystal ship. The humans attacked from every direction at once, giving the Zephyrians no chance to form proper battle lines. "This is chaos," transmitted the Zephyrian fleet commander. "There is no honor in this combat." Weber's reply came through speakers across the alien fleet. "Honor is for species that have time to die slowly." The battle lasted only 3 hours. When it was over, every Zephyrian ship was either destroyed or captured. Not a single alien vessel escaped to report what had happened. Captain Lisa Rodriguez was no longer studying alien biology. Now she was teaching other species how to kill Zephyrians. Her diplomatic missions took her to worlds that had been conquered by the crystal-skinned empire decades ago. "We're offering you freedom," she told the leaders of the Caloran people, a species that had been enslaved for 50 years. "All we ask is that you help us destroy your masters." The Calorans looked at the weapons she offered, human-made guns designed specifically to kill Zephyrians, biological weapons that would spread through alien populations like wildfire. "These weapons are terrible," said Elder Morak, the Caloran leader. "Yes," Rodriguez agreed, "but they work." Within weeks, rebellion spread across the Zephyrian Empire. Species that had been conquered generations ago suddenly found themselves with weapons and knowledge that could hurt their oppressors. The crystal-skinned warriors who had seemed invincible were dying by the thousands. Commander Jake Morrison led his special operations team through the ruins of what had once been a Zephyrian cultural center. The building had been sacred to the aliens, a place where they kept their most important historical records. Now it was burning. "Sir, we've planted charges in all the support structures," reported Sergeant Lisa Collins. "The whole complex will come down in 10 minutes. Jake nodded. This was the 15th cultural site they had destroyed this month. Each one was a blow to Zephyrian morale that was worth more than destroying a dozen military bases. "What about the civilians?" asked Private Kevin Brown, pointing to a group of alien families huddled nearby. Jake looked at the frightened Zephyrians. 6 months ago, he would have tried to help them. Now he felt nothing. Leave them. They can watch their history burn. Dr. Cross had created weapons that would have given him nightmares in peacetime. The Screamer missiles were designed to cause maximum psychological damage. When they exploded, they released sounds that drove Zephyrians insane with terror. The test results are excellent, he reported to General Kane. One missile can break the morale of an entire enemy division. Kane studied the weapon specifications. How many can we produce? As many as you need. Every factory on Earth is working on the war effort now. The tide of war had completely turned. Zephyrian forces that had once advanced confidently through human space were now retreating in panic. Their supply lines were cut, their communication networks jammed, and their soldiers infected with diseases that had no cure. War Prince Kethvar received the reports in his command ship with growing horror. Half his empire was in rebellion. His fleets were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Entire worlds had gone silent. My lord, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet, his aide reported. Put it through. General Kane's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, human ships could be seen through the viewports. More ships than Kethvar had ever seen in one place. War Prince Kethvar, Kane said calmly. I'm transmitting the terms for your surrender. Kethvar straightened. The Zephyrian Empire has never surrendered to any species. Kane smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Read the terms anyway. You might find them interesting. The document that appeared on Kethvar's screen was not a surrender demand. It was a promise. The humans were not offering to accept Zephyrian surrender. They were explaining how they planned to completely destroy the Empire, world by world, ship by ship, until nothing remained. This is madness, Kethvar whispered. No civilized species fights this way. Kane's smile grew wider. Who said we were civilized? The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar alone with the terrible knowledge that his empire was about to face something worse than defeat. They were about to face extinction. General Amy Parker looked at the intelligence reports from across Zephyrian. Space, rebellions on 40 worlds, fleet battles lost in every sector, communication networks down, supply lines cut. They're falling apart, she told Kane. The old general nodded. Good. Now we finish what they started. He activated the star map showing the Zephyrian home system. Operation Final Solution begins tomorrow. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when someone picks a fight with humanity. The war that had begun with humanity begging for peace was about to end with the complete annihilation of the species that had started it. The Zephyrians had wanted to see how humans fought. They were about to find out. War Prince Kethvar knelt in the ruins of his palace, watching the human ships block out the stars above his homeworld. The crystal spires that had taken 1,000 years to grow were burning. The sacred gardens where his ancestors had walked were nothing but ash and smoke. My lord, whispered his aide, bleeding from a dozen wounds. The human commander wishes to speak with you. Kethvar looked up at the communication device. 3 months ago, he had commanded the greatest military force in the galaxy. Now he was the last Zephyrian leader still alive. General Robert Kane's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, human soldiers could be seen placing explosives in what had once been the Hall of Imperial Glory. War Prince, Kane said without emotion. Are you ready to discuss surrender terms? Kethvar tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. According to the ancient laws of warfare, a defeated enemy should be allowed to surrender with honor. Kane laughed, but there was no humor in it. Honor? You destroyed 50,000 civilians on Proxima Centauri to make a point. You wanted to teach us about war. The human general leaned forward. Congratulations, we learned. Please, Kethvar begged. My people, the few who remain, they are not soldiers. They are civilians, children, elderly. Like the people you killed on our worlds? Kane activated a display showing images from across Zephyrian space. World after world showed the same thing. Empty cities, silent communication towers, abandoned military bases. Your empire is gone, Kane continued. Every fleet destroyed, every colony abandoned, Every government building turned to rubble. Your people are scattered across the galaxy, begging other species for refuge. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the central archive of the Zephyrian homeworld, watching his demolition team prepare the final charges. Around him, millions of data crystals contained the entire history of the Empire, their culture, their science, their philosophy, everything that made them who they were. "Sir, the charges are ready," reported Sergeant Lisa Collins. "When they go off, every record of their civilization will be destroyed." Jake nodded. This was Dr. Cross's final weapon, the forgetting, not just destroying the Zephyrian Empire, but erasing all evidence that it had ever existed. "What about future generations?" asked Private Kevin Brown. "Won't they want to know what happened here?" Jake looked at the young soldier with cold eyes. "Future generations will know not to start wars with humanity. That's all they need to know." Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Council, an emergency assembly of every known intelligent species. Representatives from dozens of worlds looked at her with fear and confusion. "The Zephyrian Empire no longer exists," she announced, calmly. "Any species currently harboring Zephyrian refugees should be aware that continued support may be seen as hostile action by the Terran Empire." Elder Vox of the Centaurian Republic raised a trembling hand. "Terran Empire? But Earth has always been peaceful." Rodriguez smiled. "Earth is still peaceful. We prefer peace. But when someone declares war on us, we finish it completely." She activated a holographic display showing human military strength. Ships, weapons, soldiers, all bearing the new symbol of the Terran Empire. "We're not conquering your worlds," she continued. "We're simply making sure everyone understands the new reality. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist." Dr. Helen Murphy watched the final virus release from orbit above the Zephyrian homeworld. The silence plague had evolved beyond her wildest expectations. Now it didn't just destroy telepathic abilities, it erased memory, language, and higher thought. The few thousand Zephyrians still on their homeworld would survive physically, but they would never again be the proud warriors who had conquered 43 star systems. They would be little more than animals, forgetting their own names within days. "Is this necessary?" asked her assistant, Dr. Mark Taylor. Helen looked at the readings showing virus spread patterns. "They wanted to make us extinct. Now we're returning the favor." Admiral Carl Weber received the final report from the cleanup operations. Every Zephyrian military installation had been destroyed, every government building leveled, every cultural center burned, every data archive wiped clean. "Total casualties?" he asked his aide. "Zephyrian military losses, 100%. Civilian casualties, approximately 60% of their total population. The survivors are scattered across 18 different star systems with no government, no military, and no way to communicate with each other." Weber nodded. "And their technology?" "Completely analyzed and copied. We understand their weapons, their ships, their manufacturing processes. Everything they knew is now ours." Lieutenant Commander Steve Hayes stood in the ruins of the Zephyrian capital, recording his final psychological warfare broadcast. This one would be different from all the others. This one would be a lesson for any species thinking about threatening humanity. "This is Commander Hayes of the Terran Empire, broadcasting on all frequencies," he said into the camera. 18 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire declared war on humanity. They killed 50,000 civilians to demonstrate their power. Behind him, the crystal spires of the alien city collapsed in clouds of dust and fire. Today, the Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. Their homeworld is empty, their fleets are destroyed. Their people are refugees. Their history has been erased. He looked directly into the camera. "This is what happens when someone starts a war with humanity. We don't just defend ourselves. We don't just win. We make sure the threat can never return." War Prince Kethvar felt his mind beginning to fade as the human virus spread through his system. Soon he would forget his own name, forget his empire, forget everything that had made him who he was. With his last moment of clarity, he activated a personal recording device. To any who find this message, he whispered, we thought the humans were weak. We thought they were primitive. We thought they would be easy to conquer. He looked up at the human ships filling the sky above his dying world. We were wrong. They are not warriors like us. They are something worse. They are survivors. And when survivors are threatened with extinction, they become something terrible. The recording device fell from his shaking hands as his memory began to disappear. General Kane stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the last human ships leave Zephyrian space. Behind them, empty worlds spun silently around their stars. No cities, no farms, no signs of the civilization that had once ruled here. Sir, President Martinez is requesting a full report, his aide informed him. Kane looked at the tactical display one last time. Red markers that had once shown Zephyrian positions were gone, replaced by blue markers indicating human control. Tell the president that the war is over. The Zephyrian threat has been permanently eliminated. What about the survivors? Kane's expression didn't change. What survivors? According to our records, there never was a Zephyrian empire. 5 years later, Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez attended the signing of the Galactic Peace Accords. Representatives from 47 species gathered to establish new rules for interstellar relations. The document was simple. No species would declare war on another without trying diplomacy first. All conflicts would be resolved through negotiation when possible. Most importantly, any species that violated these agreements would face the judgment of the Terran Empire. These are fair terms, said Elder Morak of the Kaloran Republic, the same species that had once been enslaved by the Zephyrians. Rodriguez smiled politely. We believe in fairness. We also believe in finishing what others start. No one mentioned the Zephyrians during the ceremony. Most species had forgotten they ever existed. The galaxy had new rulers now, and everyone understood the rules. Humanity had returned to its peaceful exploration and scientific research. They built schools and hospitals on the worlds they had conquered. They spoke of cooperation and mutual benefit. But their warships patrolled the borders, silent reminders of what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening the survival of humanity. The galaxy was at peace, and it would stay that way. After all, no one wanted to learn what humanity's idea of a brutal finish looked like a second time. In the quiet archives on Earth, a single classified file remained locked away, accessible only to the highest levels of government. It contained the complete record of the Zephyrian War, including videos, battle reports, and casualty figures that would horrify any civilized being. At the bottom of the file was a simple note written by General Kane. They started the war. We finished it. Let this be a lesson for any species that forgets why humanity is dangerous when cornered. The file was marked with a warning. For the protection of galactic peace, this information must never be made public. Some knowledge is too dangerous for civilized beings to possess. The galaxy lived in peace, never knowing how close it had come to learning what true monsters looked like when they called themselves human.